A very good evening. We're coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst Centre here in Colombo. This is Prime Time News. I'm Mahina Bongzo.
And I'm Madhushka Balasuriya. Let's start off with a look at your headlines.
Former Deputy Ministers P. Digambaram and V. Radhakrishnan pledged support to Maithripala Sirisena. 50 million rupees to be spent on removing illegal campaign material, a statement from the Elections Commissioner. A mix-up on a presidential scale. Sri Lanka Podujana Party claims candidate who submitted nomination is not the candidate the party decided on.
Here's a look at the stories in detail. President Mahinda Rajapaksa returned to Sri Lanka today following a visit to the Tirumala Venkateshwar Hindu temple in Tirupati, India.
MP Tisathanayake accompanied the president today at dawn religious observances held at the Tirumala Venkateshwar Hindu temple. Reuters news agency reported that security had been heightened at the temple and in Tirupati in view of President Rajapaksa's visit. Meanwhile, a group of members of the Lanka Samasamaja Party had met with President Mahinda Rajapaksa today. A communique issued by the presidential media unit says that the group had pledged to work towards President Rajapaksa's victory at the upcoming presidential poll.
Now, in one of your top headline-making stories, former Deputy Ministers P. Digambaram and V. Radhakrishnan resigned from the government to join the opposition to render their support to common opposition candidate Maithripala Sirisena today. In a media briefing convened this evening, they announced that 4 provincial council members and 34 Pradesh Sabha members have left the government with them.
The 2 former deputy ministers convened a media briefing at the office of the opposition leader this evening.
These people are the poorest people in Sri Lanka because they only live in one room, which is also their kitchen. One family sleeps in this one living space. I would not like to mention names, but some estate owners do not like to give them their own home. They have made up their mind to always live in line houses and die living in these line houses. Up to date, no one has come to build at least one good house for them. The leaders are always trying to fool us. That is why Minister Radhakrishnan and I extended our support to the President by providing him all the votes because he said he will give 7 perches. We asked him how we are going to do this by only plucking tea leaves. Therefore, we made a decision to show our fullest support to common opposition candidate Maithripala Sirisena, and we will give him majority of the votes.
People living in estates have been in line houses for 200 years. They still do not have their own house. We are fighting to provide them their own house and land. That is why we came here, to support common opposition candidate Maithripala Sirisena. I was in the ministry for only 2 months, but during these 2 months, I was not given anything. I was not even given my office as deputy minister.
The crossovers that are being witnessed with the presidential poll, now less than a month away, have heated up the political stage. Let's take a look at some of the views expressed by public representatives.
While the economies of other countries are deteriorating, the economy in Sri Lanka has begun to improve. So it was after taking this into consideration that Tisathanayake pledged his support for this cause.
Recently, I saw Fauzi saying 2 or 3 days ago that he ate just 1 egg hopper while Maithripala ate 2 and that he is stronger because of that. Well, he took the correct decision. If we had known that Fauzi liked egg hoppers that much, we would have fed him egg hoppers as well. Through that, Fauzi would have also crossed over to this side. So, Mr. Fauzi, it isn't still too late. There are around 30 or more anxiously waiting to cross over to this side.
Tisathanayake, who was the General Secretary of the United National Party, crossed over to this side the day before yesterday. We were together at that party. I was the Deputy General Secretary and he was the General Secretary. They are asking where this money is going. These are hilarious stories. Since they have nothing to say, they are still in mud.
There is a political revamp taking place now. If our enemies are admiring us, then we should be afraid. But if our enemies are attacking us, are working against us and are saying that we took the wrong decisions, then that is the correct decision that we have made on our part. Maithripala Sirisena is the only candidate who can defeat Mahinda Rajapaksa.
The United National Party has a riddle to solve.
Is it hate or compassion that is needed in the country? The people have rejected the current political system which personifies crossovers in order to bring about a new political system to the country. Those who have and are planning to cross over will get a good answer.
Several public representatives whose names were being touted about recently as possible defectors expressed these views to the media today.
If you look at everyone in my family, you will see that the Nelson family is one that has been closely associated with the United National Party. So while following in my father's political footsteps, I have no need of supporting any other political party. There are various opinions among people. There are rumors. I can say that I will stay, but the people won't believe it because people who have said so have left. I do not need to stoop to that level. I will prove it and you can see for yourselves whether or not I will join another party on the 8th.
මම ඒක ඔප්පු කරලා පෙන්නනවා 8 වෙනිදාට මම වෙනත් පක්ෂයට යනවද නැද්ද කියලා මෙහෙම දෙයක් කියනකොට මොකක් හරි කවදා හරි මම ඒගොල්ලෝ කතා.
When something like this is happening, why are they fabricating falsehoods when there isn't even a hint that I spoke with them or spoke to them over the phone? This is not just a tabloid system. They can publish some more things. But sit down and show us if there was even a hint about Ranjit Siambalapitiya or whether he spoke to them with frustration. If you cannot prove it, then please apologize to the people of this country during this election campaign.
The government made the first bid with 1 million rupees. Then they bid higher and it went up to 2.5 million rupees. Then the chairman came and said all privileges would be given and that discussions are being held with everyone at the grassroots level. They have approached me from the beginning in this way. I believe I have all the information and phone records regarding this. I can give this to be examined by anyone at any time.
We too must face this by having a greater presence on the internet and taking counter-invasionary steps. I do not think that we can impose limitations on the media at any time unless there are limitations of truth and false and limitations pertaining to national or public security. But we have to establish a mechanism. We need a system to respond to these defamatory and false statements that are being made through the internet.
The National Convention of Journalists was held in Colombo today. Several senior journalists were in attendance at the summit.
Several journalists who were at the summit pledged to uphold media freedom and the right to information with their lives. Subsequently, a stylus was presented to the presidential candidates and public representatives who attended the convention to symbolize their commitment to media freedom and the right to information in Parliament. The requests and suggestions of journalists were submitted to the candidates at this event.
I would like to clearly state that as a politician who clearly understood the right to information and media freedom, I will pay attention towards guaranteeing the right to information and media freedom of all media institutions. You all know that 2 days after my resignation from the government, I took part in a political show yard on Sirasa TV, which was disrupted from being freely broadcast to the masses. Next, you know how state media is being abused during the run-up to the polls. I know the true feelings of journalists in these state-run media institutions. I could say, in keeping with my conscience, that they are giving into this in order to secure their employment. When media freedom is established, democracy prevails. This is an enormous task. That is why we say that this should be established. So after the general elections, let us rule the country together for at least 2 years. A socio-economic frame could be established, but we need to establish a democratic frame. Until that is achieved, we can go forth together. Thereafter, it really doesn't matter which party takes. We are contesting separately because our policies differ from one another. We are working towards a leftist future for the country. We are going forward with the purpose of the people. We state once again that this will not end on the 8th of January. I suggested that we should include this in our policy statement, that under a Maitri governance, no journalist or media institution could be bought for money. Journalists should not be assaulted, not a single journalist should be killed nor injured, and their rights, their right to information, should be guaranteed. Every journalist in this country holds the right to report on any incident worth reporting on in any part of the country. That right to information should be vested on all citizens in every corner of the country. The freedom to report and pen the information and to witness and read the information.
Meanwhile, views were expressed regarding the opposition alliance at a press conference convened by the United People's Freedom Alliance in Colombo today.
The biggest difference that exists between the United People's Freedom Alliance and the opposition's alliance is that our alliance was formed on the 20th of January 2004. The first agreement that was made was that in accordance with the constitution, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party should hold a 50% plus one majority in the executive committee of the alliance. Likewise, the leader of the alliance was always be an SLF peer. The secretary was an SLF peer from the alliance. But now, according to what the Sathanayaka disclosed, such a situation does not exist within the opposition's alliance.
The Elections Commissioner says a cost of 50 million rupees will be incurred on removing unauthorized propaganda material for the upcoming presidential elections. Addressing a media briefing convened this morning, Mahinda Deshapriya said the police department had taken steps to recruit over 2,000 labourers on a temporary basis to remove the illegal propaganda material.
The responsibility to remove it is vested in the police department. The senior DIG in charge of elections has issued instructions to all police stations in Sri Lanka and all laissez-faire police officers to deploy the 2,200 labourers needed for this purpose. The elections department will make the necessary allocations to make payments to these labourers. It could amount to as much as 50 million rupees. I believe the task of removing this unauthorized campaign material will be completed by the middle of next week.
The Elections Commissioner also noted that instructions have been issued to all public institutions not to act in a manner that would cause injury or disrupt any particular candidate for the presidential polls.
We have issued instructions to all public institutions, especially the state media and local government authorities which govern sports stadiums and halls, not to act in a manner that shows special consideration to any particular candidate or causes injury to another candidate. If these instructions are not adhered to, then the necessary steps will be taken.
අපි 73 complaints have been lodged thus far with the Election Secretariat ahead of the presidential polls. 59 minor complaints and 14 complaints related to incidents of election violence have been lodged. This includes personal attacks, shootings and intimidation. The highest number of complaints were recorded in the Colombo district, with the number standing at 9.
Now in the government, they have damaged all my cutouts, all my cutouts in Colonnava. I became their enemy now. I'm begging you, stop all this violence. I crossed over because I couldn't tolerate all those the injustice, and I hope that I will get justice if I help and if I'm with the municipality retainer.
Last night, an unidentified group had attacked some hoardings in Colonnava of Western Provincial Councillor Hirunika Premachandra.
There were around 10 people came in those vehicles and then started attacking the cutout. We were told that there were some people, the Bharata's murder case suspects were hanging around in Kolonnawa area with some weapons. Hirunika was with the government till Monday, and after Monday, now suddenly Hirunika has become enemy. Because as soon as she came home after the press conference and her security was removed, when we look at that, and we are talking about democracy and freedom, and everybody has the right to try to work for a person that you want to work, but it looks like there's no freedom and the democracy in the country.
Meanwhile, an unidentified group had attacked a house in Abanthana, Katugastata.
Following the nomination of the common candidate Maithripala Sirisena, I request the police and election commissioner to look into the wrongdoings that are taking place and affecting the society due to the defender, crime and corruption culture.
Early this morning, the house of a UMP member of the Pathadumbara Pradeshiya Sabha, Atula Bandara Ekanaka in Meegammana Wattegama County was attacked. Meanwhile, the JVP lodged a complaint with the Human Rights Commission today requesting a stop to illegal campaign activity. The Elections Commissioner, Inspector General of Police, heads of local government authorities and police OICs have been cited as respondents in this petition.
As per the details enclosed within the Extraordinary Gazette Notice and the Gazette Act, they have clearly violated laws pertaining to the presidential election. The rules and regulations stipulated within the Presidential Election Act have been violated. Posters and cutouts are being displayed by the UPFA. They continue to violate the election laws by putting up hoardings. We have put forth this concern to the Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission today.
A mix-up on a presidential scale. In another twist to the ongoing saga of the presidential poll, the Eksat Lanka Podujana Party, issuing a communique this afternoon, stated that the presidential candidate who submitted nominations from their party was not the candidate who they had decided on.
The party pointed out that they had intended on putting forth the chairman and leader of the party, PHS Ajanta, as their presidential candidate. The party noted that the party's secretary, Tilak Pedru Arachi, who was assigned the duty of depositing the bond, had assigned himself in place of the party's leader. Thereby, the communique noted that Tilak Pedru Arachi has been terminated from his post of party secretary.
The working committee decided that the most suitable person to contest the presidential election is the party leader Ajanta Hevage. The next morning, he said that he will not contest the elections. Thereby, the party working committee, following discussions held among its majority, decided to elect me to contest the presidential polls from the Eksat Lanka Podujana Party. JVP leader Anura Disanayake says that present-day politics has become a muddy swamp. He made this statement addressing a rally held in Nittambo last evening.
The rally held in Nittambo was part of a series of public awareness meetings organized by the JVP ahead of the upcoming presidential polls.
They cross over from one side to another and they are bought over from one side to another. What they said yesterday changes by today. What they say today changes tomorrow. Yesterday they were scolding them to the extreme and today they are singing their praises to the extreme. What is happening here? It is shameful. It is very ugly. Politics in our country has turned into a muddy swamp. We can rescue politics in our nation from this waste heap. What has happened here? We are not prepared to give guarantees or write certificates and deeds to any of these people. We have said that we will support the defeat of this regime. We will get involved as much as possible, but we cannot give a guarantee regarding the others.
Also speaking at the event, the JV Propaganda Secretary commented on disruptions to this meeting.
The chairman of the Athanagala Pradeshiya Sabha came here. We do not know if you saw him or not. We had asked for permission to hold a meeting in the Nittambo town. We asked him for space near the old bus stop. on the other side of the new bus stop. He said he would ask the Deputy Minister and tell us. He does not have a spine to make an independent decision even though he is the chairman. This is public property. This is property to be used for the public need. He came here and from the other side of that wire fence, he said these premises would not be given again. Did he inherit this from his parents to say that he won't give the premises again? Remember that this power is temporary. That power is not permanent. He does not need to give it to us again. We know how to take it for the people after the 8th of January. On that day we will take this and show them. On that day he will have to come here with our permission. Remember that. Do not try to play games with public property.
Meanwhile, a leaflet distribution program commenced this morning parallel to the JVP's public awareness campaign targeting the presidential poll. The program has been initiated under the theme Defeat the Dictatorial Rule, Rally for Democracy. The main event commenced at the Colombo Fort Railway Station today under the auspices of JVP leader Anura Dissanayake.
We ask the people of this country that they rally to ensure a free and fair election. We believe that the people of this country will join with us on this exercise and in the effort that we have undertaken. Do not let this country continue on the path that it is on.
The leaflet distribution campaign also commenced at several other locations across the island, with the participation of the JVP parliamentarians, provincial councillors and others.
The presidential candidate of the Left Front, Duminda Nagamwa, held a rally in Nugegoda yesterday.
The political field is like a 2020 match. Some are waiting to watch the news tonight to see who and who has crossed over. They give their applause when the other side hits a six, while the other side is just as happy when the person who hits a six is bowled out. The public has become the spectators in this match. In the coming days, they will be able to witness more sixers and wickets falling. This is the entertainment that the country is left with to watch.
Dr. Mahathir Mohamad, the architect of modern Malaysia, says that a system of cooperation between the public and private sectors is what led to Malaysia's success. The visiting former Malaysian Prime Minister made this statement in his address at the Hambantota Conclave 2014 last evening.
The Hambantota Conclave 2014 was organized to create awareness on the future development plans for the greater Hambantota area and to showcase the city as Asia's new city of opportunity. The forum saw the participation of a number of political representatives, diplomats and local and foreign investors. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad was the keynote speaker at the event.
And it was said that this was bad, that the government should not work closely with the private sector. We thought otherwise. Why not? Because the private sector pays tax. And if we help them to make profits, they will pay more taxes. So we introduced Malaysia Incorporated. And in Malaysia Incorporated, the government machinery was tuned to help the private sector to be business friendly. Bureaucratic procedures were reduced to the minimum. We don't delay things. And because of that, more people were willing to invest in Malaysia because of this attitude of the bureaucrats towards the private sector. They were there to help. And the bureaucrats were told, your pay is being paid by those people.
National Integrity Awards 2014, organized by Transparency International Sri Lanka, was held for the 11th successive year at the BMICH in Colombo yesterday.
The The award felicitates an outstanding individual or an organisation for demonstrating exceptional integrity in public engagement. The National Integrity Award was awarded posthumously to Nihal Pereira, the manager of the Nuri estate in Deraniyagala, for maintaining discipline in his profession and fighting against fraud, which eventually led to his untimely death when he was murdered last year. A special mention award was presented to Susila Herath, a teacher at Navodaya Vidyalaya in Navagattegama, who was controversially made to kneel before her class by a local politician. She was recognised for her unceasing fight for justice. Speaking at the event, the chief guest, Dr. Elmo Pereira, expressed these views on the importance of freedom of information in a democratic society.
The right to information is recognised as a fundamental human right in a number of international and national human rights instruments. Information is the oxygen of democracy. If people don't know what is taking place in their society, they cannot take a meaningful part in the affairs of that society. Sri Lanka urgently needs to have a Freedom of Information Act that would be in accordance with democratic tradition.
And it's time now for Action TV.
Situated 1.5 kilometers away from the Puttalamana main road is Akkarapanashaya Sirambiadia, a village settlement inhabited 25 years ago. The inhabitants of this village, however, live in a jungle-like surrounding. They face several threats as a result of this, the most extreme of this being the threat posed by wild elephants, which in turn has resulted in the village elders spending sleepless nights watching out for danger on an agreed security plan. Come drought season, the road leading to the settlement is covered in dust, and when it rains, this is the state of the road. The settlers, whose main source of income is through those employed as hired labourers in nearby villages, could have overcome their issues faced in the presence of wild elephants if they had been supplied with electricity. There are continuous requests from political authorities in the area for electricity to be supplied to them fell on deaf ears until campaigning for the Northwestern Provincial Council elections began 1.5 years ago, following which electricity posts were put up in the area. These posts, which were intended to stretch electricity cables along the Puttalamana main road, were erected 1.5 years ago.
They brought around 20 posts and erected them within a distance of 1 kilometer each. But after around 10 were erected, it stopped somewhere outside my house. Now 4 of these posts have been taken away in my absence. I happened to come when this was happening. So I inquired as to where they were taking these, and they said, "We will bring it back. We will erect it for you." But to date, no action has been taken.
What dark motive could possibly prompt the lies that have been told to these people who have been left with electricity posts and no electricity? Chairman of the Puttalam District Development Coordination Committee, this is over to you.
Well, unfortunate news for the one-day international between Sri Lanka and England. Rain has washed out any possibility of England commencing their 240-run chase in the 5th ODI against Sri Lanka in Pallekele, Kandy tonight. The visitors will commence their innings at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow and will receive a full 50 overs for their run chase.
Winning the toss today, England captain Alistair Cook invited Sri Lanka to take first lease of the wicket in overcast conditions. Sachitra Senanayake made his return to international cricket today after a lapse of 4 months. Opener T.M. Dilshan and Kumar Sangakkara put up a 51-run partnership for the second wicket after Sri Lanka lost their first wicket early on. Dilshan was dismissed for 35, while Sangakkara went on to score his 91st ODI half-century. Sangakkara was eventually dismissed for 91 runs, which included 10 shots to the fence. Chris Wokes was the pick of the bowlers with figures of 6 for 47.
The CEO of the Football Federation of Sri Lanka, Anura Silva, has been attacked by a certain group of people. He was attacked while leaving the FFSL headquarters following a meeting today and has been admitted to the National Hospital in Colombo. Speaking to Newsfirst, FFSL President Ranjit Rodrigo expressed these views.
A meeting was held with the office bearers and employees of the Football Federation today at 5 p.m. The budget and activities for next year were discussed. The meeting ended at about 6:30. Following this, the Secretary, Senior DIG Upali Hewage, CEO Anura Silva, Finance Manager Prabhat and I held discussions between the four of us. Our Secretary's vehicle was blocked by CEO Anura Silva's vehicle. Just as he was opening his vehicle to get in, someone dealt a blow to his head with a hockey stick. When he attacked for the second time, Anura Silva had caught hold of the hockey stick. I believe he sustained a major injury to his head. There was a lot of blood. I was in shock. I took him to the National Hospital and got him admitted. A police investigation is underway.
Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana said that a complaint had been lodged with the police regarding the attack on Anura Silva, adding that investigations are underway.
And on that note, we wrap up this edition of Primetime News. I'm Madhushka Balasuriya.
And I'm Mahina Bongso. Thank you for joining us. Good night.